All right, welcome everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get started again. I know this is the last session of the last 2 days, so I'm thankful that you're here on a Friday afternoon, on a beautiful Friday afternoon. Last couple days off here, so thank you for being here. My name is Brian Tumminelli. I am the ed tech over at Everett Alvarez High School. I'm going to be talking today about formative. And this session, as you're going to see in a little bit, is more geared towards those who've already used formative and looking to see some of the new stuff, or how you can help your PLCs get more involved in formative and using it, because formative is now, I think possibly across all our core classes now, the place where our district tests are and all of that. So I want to show you some things that you could use with that in a more, I'd say, more advanced level. So if you haven't signed in yet, the links are in the chat. They're also on the screen. They're going to be going through, as I cycle through these slides, they're going to be there. But again, thanks for being here. I am recording, so if you don't want your face on there, don't turn the camera on, but you can definitely open up your mic and chat, or you can shoot me a message in the chat if you have any questions. Will be time for questions as we move forward. So let me just go ahead and get started here. Just a real brief update on the session norms. Again, please keep your questions, or ask your questions in the chat, and please keep your audio muted unless you have a question you want to ask me. Appreciate you guys staying focused. If you have a technical issue, just carry on the best you can. Again, these are all being recorded. In about a month or so, hopefully a little less, all of these recordings will be available to everybody. So if something happens and you get kicked out, you can come back to this recording down the road at your leisure and take a look at it. So appreciate, again, you all being here. And again, as a reminder, as I said, this is not a beginner formative session. So those of you who've never used formative before, don't know how it works, how to build questions, things like that. I'm not going over that. My assumption is you guys know how to build a formative and have done it before and have seen it. So if you're someone who's never used formative before, you might want to consider another one of our open sessions that we have here are on the scheds. So all you have to do is go back, log into another one, sign in, and you should be good to go. So just want to remind you on that. And also want to mention that this session today is really, as I was kind of going through and planning what I wanted to talk about with this formative session and more advanced features that I was asked to present, I want this to be focused, geared toward what you can bring to your PLTs going forward, because I do find that the formative tool and our formative tool is, if utilized by the PLTs, can be a very fantastic and easy process to help build your CFAs, analyze data, have those discussions that we need to be having about our students. So that's what we're going to be somewhat focusing on today. So if any of this is a rehash for you, and you'll kind of already know this, I'm sorry. Formative does have some advanced features that I'm going to be sharing, but that's stuff that you may have discovered already yourself. But hang in there, you're getting paid, so appreciate you hanging out. All right, so what I'm going to be doing today, go ahead and, if you haven't already, go ahead and log into your formative and go to your homepage if you can. But what I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to be going deep, diving deeper into the formative library and the AI generator, some updates, small updates from last year that are new for this year that you might be interested in hearing about. Refresh and how we analyze data and the things that you can find, again, with the focus on what can you bring to your PLTs, and then again collaborating with your PLTs and what that all looks like. So give you guys like 30 seconds or so, go ahead and log into formative for me, and we'll get started from there. I should also mention, as a bad presenter, I don't have any like fun interactive things for you to jumpstart and try out right now. I figured this session being the last of Friday, you might just want to get the information and then play around yourself. So essentially, I'm going to be showing off some of the features and things that you may have tried or haven't tried, but then give you some time to play around with it. And then, of course, we'll have time at the end for you guys to play around until about 3 o'clock or so. to mess around with it, build a formative you want to use, and go from there. So that's kind of our focus for today. So I'm going to switch screens now and head on over. Let me see what my next slide is, just a reminder. Oh yeah, so real quick, I'm going to talk about the formative library. I'm going to talk about practice sets and what you could do with those, and then the formative AI bot. Everything has AI, of course, nowadays. So I'm going to showcase a little bit of that in the terms of how that you can use it as a PLT here. So I'm going to switch screens first and head on over to my formative homepage, as you see here on the screen. First thing I want to talk about today is the library and some interesting things. Some of you may have messed around with the library before. The library is a massive, now as far as I've been able to mess around with, a massive database of different formatives for you. Basically what you want to do up on the search bar, if there's any subject you are interested in teaching and you don't necessarily want to create anything from scratch, you can type it up here. So I'm typing the Renaissance as a former world history teacher. I type that in, and you can see there is a bunch of different formatives that pop up regarding the Renaissance here, if that's something you're teaching. What's great about the library, if you haven't already checked it out and all that, you can automatically add the formative just by clicking the blue plus sign. I've added this one, so I'm going to click on it. But if you hit the blue plus sign, it adds it. And then here is the formative that was created by a teacher. Now, what's great is from here, you could see all of the questions that were here. Now, this isn't the original formative created by whoever created it. I think it's a South Carolina teacher. This is now your copy added to your list of formative, and you can easily now do all the editing you want. This is simple and easy to use. So again, I don't want copy of, I hate this question. You could delete it, or you can change the question type, and it's right there for you. Pretty simple and standard. That is obviously the basics of the library. And of course, at the end here, you could always add more questions. I do want to point something out so you don't freak out about the new questions, by the way. If you click on this, you may notice now that there are sections for content. There's a section for free questions, and then paid questions in a different color. And I've had several teachers already reach out to me and go, paid questions, we don't have access to it, because you see this little lock and you freak out. We do have access to it. You can go ahead and click on whatever paid question you want. So I did fill in the blank, and it's going to pop up here. So I'm telling you this now, spread the word, don't panic. I had several teachers who panicked. Don't panic. Just, you can utilize the free or the paid questions. Those are ours. Okay. Let me go back to the library, because I think most of you kind of know this, but I wanted to share some cool things from the library here for you that have popped up. First, that you may be interested in using. First off are these starter lessons. This is, for me, at the top of my page. Not sure if it's at the top of yours, but there are, from the formative staff, a bunch of starter lessons. And this could be a starter lesson from any of the curriculum you teach. So I'm an English language arts teacher, or social studies, or science, but I'm an English language arts teacher. If I click that and I find my grade level, so I teach this year, I'm going to be teaching 10th. I can do a starter lesson maybe for the beginning of this year on a letter to your teacher. And it's a quite literally, if I scroll through, this is a whole lesson on writing a letter, how to do it, what it all looks like. And again, all of this stuff is editable. You can change it up, make it a little bit more challenging or less challenging, depending on what you want to do. Formative has created these starter lessons. I found that kind of interesting in case you're struggling. How do I want to get started? Those are available to you. I also want to share, more importantly, some things. Let me make sure I do this right here. If I spell it right. Nope. I always forget how to spell CASP or the PP. I don't know. There we go. Formative has put up a lot of lessons from our CASP, California assessment there, that you can utilize as well to help give your students practice. So for here, grade 11, obviously 11th graders in high school take it, but 7th grade as well and 8th grade take it. And there's all different types of lessons that you can utilize here. And you can filter it to grade level up here on the right. So if you just wanted, say, high school, you can filter it just to high school, and there you go. And you can see here, there's practice tests, there's reviews, things like that. You can filter the way you want. I'm gonna exit out of the filter though here. There we go. And the one I wanted to show you is there's just a lot of resources that you can utilize in whatever class you need to. So there's performance tasks, science tests, math tests, and performance tasks. All of that available. So if you are teaching one of these grade levels that have your students take the CASP, that's there for you to mess around with and take a look at. So wanted to kind of share that a little bit with you because I found that very interesting and possibly very good for you in your classes. The reason why I share it as well is mainly because, again, there's a lot of resources here that a lot of teachers don't necessarily use because it does get a little bit overwhelming. The library does. It gets overwhelming to build our own. And I found it, as someone who uses Formative often, I found it a lot easier to find someone who's already created something, take it, tweak it to what I want, and move on. All right. So that is the library. I wanted to share that. And again, every time you want to add something, you add this plus sign. But one thing I want to remind you of, I'm going to switch to my slides here real quick. When you hit that plus icon, it's added to your library all the time. So it'll be in your library. And my one thing that I screw up on is organizing your activities. Make sure you do that if you haven't done so. I'm terrible at this. So when I'm on my activities tab here, you can see I have some folders that I've created that put some lessons, but I got so many different lessons all over the place. I plan to clean this out and kind of delete as I go because there's so much there. It's easier to organize, and you can organize if you don't know, but just create, and you create a new folder, title it to what you want. You can click and drag resources up there for you, or your formatives, whatever you choose to do on that. Any questions thus far before I move on? Because I'm going to keep going until we get to a little quick 5-minute play time. Pretty good. All right. I want to show another thing about practice sets. Some of you may have seen this practice sets, played around with it. Practice sets are generally like flashcards. Okay, so a lot of us sometimes, I think teachers especially, are like, why do I need to play around with flashcards? Have my students play around with flashcards. What I've discovered, though, very nicely is that if you have a formative or a test, those can become really handy, and they're very, very easy to generate. I want to show this kind of a cool little thing here. I'm going to go to my folder. That's just my formative example. I have a test of the Renaissance. Again, former world history teacher here. I have a test, 10 questions. Let's just say I'm giving this to my students to test them on their knowledge, a unit test, but I don't feel like they're ready to go. I can create a practice set for them. Now, obviously, I can do this manually, take some time, but what's really cool is you can do this using the power of AI right here. So if you go to the top 3 buttons onto the right, head on down to generate practice set. If I click on that, it's going to take a second, and it's going to load and do its thinking and do all the AI fun that it does. But what it's doing is looking through your questions, and then it's coming up with terms and flashcards for you. Now, things like Renaissance artists, who were they? Leonardo's masterpiece. Now, it's not perfect. Just like AI is not perfect. I, for one, though I've used AI relatively often, I don't trust it at all. I always have to double check things with AI, and as you should as well. But the idea is here, you can generate flashcards for whatever test you've already created pretty quickly and easily, and then go through them and be like, hey, geographic spread, I don't know why this is such a big deal. I didn't really want this. You can delete it, or you can edit it or whatever you want to do. So like example of change is very vague. I don't know what this means. You can end up deleting this if you necessarily need to, or edit it or change it, whatever you want to do. So, but just again, the idea is to make it easy on you, to give you a start, give your PLCs a start. But I wanted to share this in case you wanted to give your students more practice before they took an exam on formative. You can generate, when the district tests come up, you can generate the same way. These cards as well. You can generate the practice sets. So I did this for like last year's English 9 middle of year assessment, and you can see it generated these that you can possibly, if your PLC agrees or is allowed, generate that for your students so they can practice before the exam, or you can use it to see what we need to work on. That's possible as well. So that is kind of a cool new thing on practice sets that just came down. All right. Finally, last thing, I did want to mention, if you are someone who uses Quizlet or Gimkit on a regular basis, you can transfer a lot of questions from those sources to Formative. You just have to download the information as a CSV file, and then you upload it from a CSV file. So that's pretty simple. And then the last thing I want to share on this section, before we take like a 5-minute break to kind of explore a little bit, is our AI generated formatives. Again, AI, kind of what our world is going to, whether you like it or not, that's up to you. I'm not telling you you need to use this. The Salinas Union High School District has guidelines that have been released, re-released, and will be re-released again, probably by your site EdTech, about AI. I'm just here to share the tool, and if you choose to use it and your PLC chooses to use it or not, that's up to you guys. I wanted to share it because, again, a lot of times in our PLTs, we get bogged down with trying to build a good CFA for our students to measure data, and we don't actually have the great discussions that we should be having about student achievement. So this is a tool that I know several of my PLTs at my school have used, and have used it with success to help generate CFAs. So it's very simple. On your home page, if you go to create and then generate activity on your right side here, make sure I'm on the right spot. Here we go. Go down to generate activity. You select the activity type, quiz, you enter your prompts. Again, I will say the Renaissance. You say what grade level you want. And then just a couple new things real quick regarding the AI. There's going to be some new features rolling out. Unfortunately, not till like next week we're going to find out what those new features are. But the idea is, I believe from what I read, that eventually we're going to be able to say how many questions we want, not just, oh, I want a short test, a medium test, or a long test. We'll be able to put a numeric value. And they did recently add some more question types to our AI generation. So you can do a free response or a numeric question type there as well. And if you've never seen this before, it's pretty simple. You hit generate activity, and essentially your AI generated formative is being built. So as we pull it up here, here is my AI generated formative being formulated right now, and it's being built as we speak. So you can see here, it generates with the questions the correct answer. Again, do not trust that it did it right. Go through and double check. Excuse me, and make sure that it's good, but it gives you ideas, including short answer. They give you an answer along those lines, and so on and so forth. This is great. Again, like I said, powerful use for your CFAs. If you're trying to build a quick CFA to hit a certain standard and you want your PLTs to discuss it and share and talk about it, it's a great way to do it and to discuss it, and to have something quick so you can focus more on the data than you need to do with actual building of CFAs. All right, so far that's what we've touched on. We've touched on put this over here real quick. We've touched on the AI generated formatives, we've touched on practice sets, we've touched on the library. I want to take a quick break from talking and also allow you guys to ask questions, but also explore this part of my presentation as well, to take a look and play around with the AI if you're interested in practice sets. So I'm going to give you guys about a 5-minute or so time break. I'm not going to incorporate this break necessarily into our time. I'm hoping to be out of here by 3 o'clock for you, or allow you guys to leave at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. If you have questions, throw them in the chat, unmute yourself, ask. I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, play around for a little bit, see what you like, see if you have any questions. Things not working for you, let me know, and we'll go from there. So let me get the timer started. All right, that is 5 minutes. Give you guys a little break, hopefully mess around. Is there any questions anyone may have regarding the AI, the sets, practice sets, the library? Let me know. Going once, going twice. All right, cool. Perfect. So let's move on here. Take a look at some things. Oh, please don't play that again. I'm going to move into the data portion of the conversation to make sure everyone has an idea of what data looks like and what we're talking about here. So first and foremost, obviously with PLCs, or excuse me, PLTs, you're going to want to make sure that everyone has access to whatever CFA you created. So very simply, there is a share button where you can simply just email the link or share the link to members of your PLT, who can then go ahead and present their CFA to their students as well. It's up on the triple dots on any formative. Click down and hit share. As I said, there's a link, and then you could add the email of the collaborator there, or you can add an organization. I'm going to go over organizations in a little bit and why they're so nice, but that is something that you may want to ask your admin or your site ed tech, whoever has admin capabilities with formative at your site, to create for you. There's very much a lot of power when it comes to with organizations, as I will show you shortly here. So reviewing data as a PLC, I'm going to jump into my tab again here and kind of show you exactly what the data looks like and some things that you may not know or you may have discovered, but I want to share with you anyway. I'm scrolling on down trying to find a CFA here. Here we go. I'm going to click on this CFA number 3. This is from English, so this is the screenshot I took, so perfect. When you're on your CFA, your students have responded. Obviously, you want to go to the responses tab to see how well your students have done. And here on the left side here is where you're going to be able to see how your students have done. Now, a lot of you may have see that your name, you just see your name on there and maybe the amount of class periods you have and how well they did. As you can see, I can see multiple teachers on this. Again, that comes for the organization. I'll explain why that's awesome in a little bit here. But to really see how well our subgroups have done and what the students done, you want to see these percentages here, and that's where you want to click. So you can click one of places. You could click on the top here where it says average. This tells you how everyone did within your class or your PLC, whoever's, if there's a group of teachers here. You can see the total distribution. You could see how your English language learners did, students with special needs, how they did, and then a breakdown further on here. And this will give you an idea of just how well they succeeded, and could lead to some good conversations here. This is just, again, overall though. This is not like question by question. This is just an overall thing. Now for them, this was just a 1 question quiz here. As you can see, I'm going to go click on it. This is just a 1 question quiz. And to see, let me go back here so you see what I did. Darn, I shouldn't have done that, but that's okay. I shouldn't have gone back all the way, but I will find it again. Here it is. If you want to break down how they did on the question, you just hit the question number right here, and you can see how well each individual student did on their on the question itself. They just did a 1 question CFA on this one, the 10th grade team here. If you want to break it down per class, you can do the same. Just click the percentage and it gives you an idea of the breakdown of the class. In this case, it's 28 students in the class who took the test out of 30. And then it breaks down how the ELs did, those in special education, and so on and so forth. Again, to give you that data and generate the conversation within your PLTs. The Insights tab, again, is another great spot too. A lot of people tend to think this is where you get all those demographic breakdowns. Not necessarily, but you can get the other just more detailed breakdown of how your students did, the number of students took the test, who scored, advanced. Again, the numbers are so high because this team was created as an organization, this PLT, so they're all kind of lumped together. But you could take a look here for the top underperforming questions and see what the question was and look at the breakdown from there from this specific question. Obviously, this is a one question test, so it's not going to give you the best insight because they're going to say that's the underperforming. But if you have a multiple choice or multiple question CFA, you'll see what the top underperforming question is and then how long it took to submit. I wouldn't trust that. Because as you can see, someone submitted 1,637 hours after it was open. That's obviously not accurate. So I wouldn't necessarily trust that, but you can kind of get a breakdown of how everyone did, the average score, who met the standards, if you tag them. That's a little bit bigger breakdown. Again, the idea, generating that conversation within your PLTs. And let's see if I'm making sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. The last thing I want to share is that organization portion of it, because this is key for your PLTs. And this is something, again, I would highly instruct, demand, if you will, from your ed tech or from your admin, whoever has admin access to Formative, to put you and your PLTs together in an organization at your school site. The organization allows you to see the breakdown of how your students did, along with how the students did in other classes in your PLT. So I can go on here and look and see, hey, I only scored a 60%, but I see Miss Adams here, her class did 73%. That could easily generate conversations and be, hey, how did you instruct this? What did you do that was different? Why do you think that? And have those conversations. This is really, really valuable. Of course, obviously, you're gonna have to have your PLTs trust each other, be able to share this kind of information. But I know that I'm speaking for Alvarez. A lot of our teachers are willing to have this happen. And it's pretty simple. I have admin access, as you can see. A lot of you, I don't think you do, but what I've done is this is all last year. I'm gonna have to redo it again this year. But I have a lot of our PLCs into an organization. And you can see here, here's our ELA 12, here's our Math 1 teachers. So whenever they create a CFA or a test or something that everyone's going to use, they share it with each other through the organization. And therefore, excuse me, got a garbage truck driving by my room here. So they share it with other people in the organization, and that way they all can see each other's scores and have those conversations, have those powerful conversations that need to be had within our PLTs. So that is simply done, but again, by asking your site admin to take care of that for them. Last thing I want to share is this tab up here. This is under admin. It's called Common Assessments, though. Common assessments are assessments created by you guys that you have to label as a common assessment in the settings. And that common assessment is then posted up throughout the district under this Common Assessment tab, where admin could see it, other teachers can see it and see the scores, which may not sound like the greatest thing in the world. You don't necessarily want your admin all the time to see what your CFAs are and how your students are doing. So you don't want to make everything a common assessment, but this is where a lot of our district assessments are going to be housed under the common assessments. So this is where essentially a other teachers and things are going to be able to see the scores. Now, the thing about common assessments, if you do make it a common assessment, this also can make it accessible to teachers at other sites, and they can see scores and things like that. So just giving you a heads up, if you mark common assessment there, you want to be careful. But also it could be something you're interested in doing if you're sharing a tool out with everyone else. Okay. Any questions on those? The reports, the data, assessments, anything at all? All right. Okay, last thing I'm going to share real quick before I set you guys free to explore, look around. Just under reports here, tab is a great way to track student progress, especially with your PLT. If you're seeing how students are doing within a certain standard, usually a default set for the last 14 days, but you can take that off. But what you would do essentially, where the filters are, there we go. You could select grade, your subject, all of this. You can select the date range, if you will, and select a class. So I'm going to look to see if I can run a report for one of my classes here. And you can get an idea of just how well the students have progressed from one test to another here. So it gives them, for example, I could select a student here and see how they've done and how they've progressed as they've gone through. There's a lot of red marks here because, long story short, I had to do a lot of sub days last year. And I used Formative for the sub day, so I didn't necessarily grade them other than just to see they're completed. But if you do these for CFAs, you can see their progress. You can see how well they've been doing. And if you notice things like a drop or a trend or something, that's again another way to generate conversation, or follow up with students and how they're doing on the progress. That comes in the reports section, and you can do the same with the standards. If you link standards to your formatives, you can see how and if they are meeting the standards over time as well. So it just has those plethora of options there, and you do the same for progress, where you can run a report for a student and see how they're doing within the last couple of years. You can search for a student. Let's see if I can find one. Garbage trucks rolling by again, sorry. And you can get like a detailed breakdown on how they're doing and if they're meeting standards, so on and so forth. So there's a lot here to mess around with and to take a look at and to kind of get a grasp. All right. I anticipated more questions than I got, so that means my portion of the presentation and sharing some of the new stuff is done. One last thing I do want to share, and I'm going to see if I can find it. There is a webinar next week. I got to see if they have it somewhere on their website, because it usually popped up, but it didn't pop up today. But there is a webinar next week, informative, because they're going to talk about new features and other things, and I believe it's next week. I believe it is on the 30th, so Wednesday. If that is something you want to go to and you're interested in taking a look at and learning about some new features that they're going to be rolling out eventually, that is a cool resource. It popped up for me for a couple days. It has not popped up for me today to get you the link to it, so I apologize, but that could be something for you as well. And then again, if you have any questions or thoughts or concerns, please reach out to me or your site EdTech for support help, because we want Formative to be easy. We want it to be something that's utilized through your PLTs and something that makes your PLTs run smoothly, so you're having those important conversations. But again, like I said, I anticipated more questions, didn't hear a lot. So we're going to make this simple. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and start messing around and building and taking a look more at the formatives, thinking about maybe some possible CFAs you can bring to your PLT. this is going to be the time for you to explore and play around a little bit. We are running early because, again, I anticipated more questions than I'm getting, which is totally fine. Doesn't bother me. So I'm going to let you guys go and explore. And at about like 2:50 or so, we'll come back here. We'll wrap things up and then send you guys out on your way for your weekend. And if you got questions, please unmute and ask as you guys explore and go around. I will be here. But see if there's any CFAs or anything you want to build, how you want to implement Formative maybe in the first few weeks, and how you could use Formative to inform your instruction. See what you can figure out, messing around with Formative. And I appreciate you guys. So we'll be checking back at like 2:40. I'll check in about 2:50. So in about an hour 15. Thanks, guys. My friends, I'm throwing on some light music for us right now. So enjoy as you work. Let me know if you got questions on Formative, anything you want me to show or help with, troubleshoot. So I'm here for. Let me know.